Hello and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. This is the series on fireworks phobia and how we can help our dogs to cope during the fireworks season. In this episode, we're going to look at emergencies, what we can do when the worst happens. So what am I talking about with emergencies? Well, it's when our dog goes into complete meltdown over a firework. It could be a case that we've got a rescue dog who we have not had through a fireworks season before, so we suddenly discover they're morbidly afraid of fireworks. It could be a young dog that's never experienced fireworks before, and again, it suddenly happens. So we're looking at what we can do in those real emergency situations, worst case scenarios, those situations where a dog is a dribbling, slavering mess, it's curled up in a heap, trembling all over, and it's really bad. So we're not looking at where the dogs are just slightly reactive to noise sensitivity, maybe they bark, whatever. This is the real serious side where a dog is completely shut down. It's, it's clearly gone over an edge with its reaction. So perhaps one of the times where most people will discover how noise sensitive their dogs are, they've got a dog out on a walk, it's dark, fireworks go off, and the dog bolts. I mean, that is a scary situation when the dog bolts in the dark and with fireworks going off. Utterly scary situation. So as I mentioned before in prevention, the best way to avoid that happening is to have your dog on the lead. But supposing it does happen, so of course your dog is going to bolt, the odds are they're not going to be listening to your recall if you shout their name and call their name. You're going to have to go through the whole procedure of putting up notices to see if people have located your dog. Obviously put it on Facebook at once. Say to people, look, my dog has bolted in this. If anybody's around the area, please can they come and see if the dog's there. Check out regular walking routes that you do with your dog. The ones that your dog knows off like the back of its hand, back of its paw. Because the likelihood is they're going to follow the routes. But because a dog that bolts, it could go in any direction. So that is a real worst case scenario, and I highly advise you to try and avoid it by not having your dog off in the dark on a lead. Obviously, if they've got their collar on and their ID tag and they're chipped, that's going to obviously help to get that dog back to you. So what do we do if it's not a case that dog's bolted, but it's a case that you're at home and your dog is this nervous wreck? It gets to a stage where it's possible that your dog needs some sort of help beyond what you're able to do with counter conditioning. I personally would go to start with it. I would want to try and work through counter conditioning and try all behavioural changes first before I had to go to a slightly more extreme level. No, not extreme, that's not the extreme, but I would call it the last resort level. This is what I'm talking about, is when you're going to be using drugs to help chill out your dog, and we're not talking about the homeopathic ones. So they are the last resort, and they're going to be used in a situation where your dog is so distressed that nothing else is going to help. They're going to be used for the minority of dogs, not the majority. We're talking about things like diazepam, human diazepam, which can be used in epilepsy in dogs. We're talking about things like there is, doggy Prozac. A new drug that has been approved by the FDA in America is called Sileo, and it's supposed to be quite promising. It's been approved for canine noise aversion. So it inhibits the development of fear and anxiety by blocking the norepinephrine release in the brain. So it effectively calms the dog down, reduces their fear level. So there's been some promising studies with that, but obviously it's very early days, and it's the sort of thing we don't know what's going to happen in terms of side effects or what it will be like long term. So it's one of them things. It's sort of, it's going to be a case of my dog is at that stage where it's actually bad for its health and its mental condition to be in that state. I therefore am prepared to try a newish drug. Another drug that has been out for a while but that shouldn't be used, has not recommended by a lot of vets, is acepromazine, ACE for short. And while it is a tranquilizer, the problem is it doesn't alleviate anxiety and fear. What it's been called a chemical straitjacket for dogs. So the dog is unable to do much and respond, but they're still suffering from the fear and anxiety inside. So it's a really horrible mix if you think about it. You're stressed and fearful, but you can't do anything about it. So that is not recommended. There aren't many drugs out there on the market that can help dogs through their extreme fear. And some of them are drugs that have to be introduced into the system, and the dog has to have so much in its system, so it has to be introduced before the event. They're not one-offs. So, but there are options out there, and it is something to talk to with your vet about and say, is there something I can give my dog to help them calm them down? It is a really difficult situation where your dog is having an extreme bout of fear during fireworks. Again, you've got to try and minimise the noise for them. You know, if you might even consider, if you heard of a dog that's extreme, is there any way I could soundproof a room to a degree, or at least sort of areas of a room? So, you know, to try and minimise that distress. If your dog is in a terrible state, what else can you do? If you can't get hold of drugs, I mean, that is a real, you know, serious if you're having to look at drugs. What can you do if you found your dog in this state? The best thing you can do is keep with your dog, keep them calm. Make sure if they'll let you, put a blanket over them or get them somewhere warm, because obviously if they go into shock they can be cold and they start to shiver. There's not a great deal you can do, it's going to be honest. You just have to be there for them, comfort them, stroke them, calm them down. Try and just try and put them in a situation where they are gradually settling. It is very difficult. If it was to happen out on a walk and your dog was a nervous wreck, what would you do? It's a good question. So say you've been out on a walk and dog's heard a firework go off, and it's unexpected firework, perhaps it's not quite dark yet, so you know you thought you were safe. Then what you might need to do is you're going to have to get your dog home. If they're a small dog, you might be able to carry them. If they're a big dog, then you're going to have to get them moving with you. They might be gone into fear mode, so they can't move, or they won't move, or the tail's down. If you've got treats on you can try offering them treats or buoy them along, and you try but you're going to just try and get them home as fast as possible and get them somewhere so you can comfort them and get them safe. Another one was emergencies, and this is probably the emergency that most people experience, is when you send your dog out to go to the loo last thing at night, or if you've got a puppy, you're probably going out every couple of hours during the day and early evening. And you're out there, and lo and behold, dog's just about to go to the loo, fireworks go off. That's happened to me with at least 2 puppies, and you're like, oh, great. When this happens, how you react is very important, because it's obviously a very difficult situation for you and your dog. You want to react calmly, and you're going to have treats with you so you can reward your dog. Both for toileting in the dark when there's noise going on, but also so you can reward your dog, just to be, you know, to build up the idea that, oh yeah, bang went off, hey look, there's sausage, you know, just offsetting again, counter conditioning. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy one, and it's probably something that could be a big trigger in your dog's fear of fireworks. That could be the triggering factor. To be honest with you, that was the triggering factor with Swift's fear of fireworks. It was that going out one evening, going to the loo, I thought I judged it to miss all the fireworks, firework went off, and she actually went for a period she wouldn't go out in the garden after dark, just wouldn't. And if she did go out, she certainly couldn't go to the toilet. So, you know, there is this element to it. So you've got to be prepared for that, and you might even consider to the point of teaching your dog to urinate on something inside, like a bit of AstroTurf. If you have a dog that is really, really scared of fireworks, that might be the way you go. You say to yourself, well, I know I can't take them out because they're just going to be a nervous wreck and they're not going to achieve anything. So if I can set up an area, almost like a doggy litter tray, where they'll pee, so I know they're still being able to go, but we can just eliminate that factor. You know, that could be the way you have to go. So again, as an emergency situation, you have to work around it. You're either going to counter condition it, so that your dog is happy to go out when there's fireworks going off, or you're going to have to think about it in a different way. Other thing to bear in mind is that when it's dark, you're going to be going out there with them. It might be cold, but you're not standing at the kitchen door. You're out there with them at their side, possibly with them on a lead so they can't bolt across the garden. I know they're probably not going to get lost in your garden, but what you don't want is your dog to bolt under a bush and spend the next hour under a bush with you trying to get them out. So you might need to have them on a lead. You're going to be with them so that they've got you as your confidence. You could even make it a family event and take everybody out, because the more people who are calm and that, it helps boost your dog's confidence. If you've got a calm dog that you can take your dog out with, so they all come out together, that might work as well. So these are all little things you might have to work through and get through. And of course, if you do have a setback, So if something happens and you weren't ready for it, and your dog does go backwards and starts to be really reactive to fireworks again, gets itself into a state, you need to then go back to your counter conditioning, so what we talked about in episode 2, and maybe look at some of the methods in episode 3, such as vet wraps and some of these plugins that give off pheromones, to see. You're going to have to just try all these things again. You're going to have to go back to square one and start again. And yeah, it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be frustrating, and you may over the course of your dog's life, it could happen every year, and you may have to go back and forth every year. And yeah, but there's not much else you can do until there's such a thing as silent fireworks that are only allowed to be sold to the public. Then, you know, it's something you're going to have to do, and have to appreciate that every year this is something I've got to work towards. What I can tell you is that usually each time you have to pick yourself up and start again, it's usually not as bad going forward. It's usually there's just that little bit less fear. With Swift, that's certainly been the case. We've discovered that though she is still scared of the dark, she's very scared of the dark, she is actually improving each year gradually. We haven't yet had the first firework, so we'll see what happens there, because that's usually what triggers us off, and then she won't go outside in the dark. With her evening routine is she go for a walk while it's ready to dusky. Go for a walk, on a lead, make sure she's been to the loo plenty of times. She then is in the house and all the time in the living room, door shut, curtains closed, telly on, something loud. There's treats available so that I can reward her if she does get scared. And she only goes out again in the evening last time before bed. And then she goes out. We go to a place where I know she likes to go to the toilet, and I have treats on me, and they're good high quality treats. And as soon as she goes to the loo, basically, boom, treat in your mouth, you're done. Come on, straight in the doors. And hopefully that'll tide us through fireworks season. Obviously, we've got to wait till that first firework goes off. And knowing our luck, it'll probably go off just at the moment she's going to the loo. But it's all you can do, and you just keep at it. And I hope this has given you some ideas. And I've tried to keep all my advice all based on scientific research, the latest research that has been done by various universities across the world. So there's evidence behind us to prove that this does work. It's not some old wives' tale or some granny's remedy for fixing things. It's based on the science. And I hope that you will be able to have a calm and happy fireworks season with your dog. And I hope some of these methods will achieve a level of success for you, and your dog will be able to cope better. Because really, at the end of the day, we don't necessarily want a dog that loves fireworks. We want a dog that can exist with firework noise going on, and they are calm and not a nervous wreck, and that we're not nervous and stressed up about fireworks because of that. So I hope you've enjoyed this series, and if you have, you might like to check out the Everyday Canines YouTube channel, and you can also subscribe. So you can subscribe to us on there, and you can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And I hope to see you all again very, very soon.